Okay, there seems to be a lot of frustration with these Bumbleride tires. We've had our twin stroller for a long time. I've had to replace tubes twice on this stroller. I'm not a fan of pneumatic tires, but we have a gravel driveway, and pardon the noise. The farmer next to us is working his field. We have a gravel driveway, and the pneumatic tires are pretty good for that. So, as an example, I have this little DR, I don't know, it's like a little driveway grader, and it's got solid tires, and it's great because they never go flat, but it bounces around a lot, so you really can't beat pneumatics. Anyway, so the tire is fine. It's the tube, and the tube kind of has an inherent flaw in it, and one of the issues with that tube is the way they attach the stem. So let me get this. Sorry for the bad cameraing. And if you see, the reinforcement on the stem is not very big. So it doesn't take a lot for that to wear through and to get defective and leak. So it's a weird design. I don't know if we've had this stroller for 5 years, and there's times that we have all 3 kids in it. So it takes a pretty good beating, and this driveway is not the greatest. Matter of fact, whenever I grade it, she has a fit because it does make it bumpy because it brings a lot of the rocks back up. Anyway, so I'm going to go through how to do this. What I have found has been the easiest way. Obviously, have it removed from the stroller. This is going to be the outside that's exposed. I try not to work from this angle because you are gonna mar and injure this plastic rim a little bit doing this. I am not very good. I'm not a professional. I have just found this is what works for me. I have no idea where in the world you would take one of these things in if you needed to have it done. So I'm kind of a DIYer anyway, so this is fine. Anyway, I got the old Wilton vise here, or Colombian vise, and this is all plastic. These are all sealed bearings. You got to be pretty careful because they're very tender. So I'm gonna get in that vise, and what I'm doing, I'm actually grabbing that little rim right there. And you don't want to squeeze it too hard because you'll pop that off and crack it. So I'm gonna just kind of snug it up in there, kind of like that. And then what I'm gonna do is I have a variety of these little pry tools. Ideally, what you would want to use is like a tire spoon, or what they call a tire iron. And it's actually a large spoon shaped. It's a little more spoon shaped than this. This is just a pry bar I think I got from eBay. I got like a set of 5 for like $20, and they're absolutely priceless. I use them for all kinds of stuff. I have a lot of old equipment. They work great. Anyway, so the first thing you're going to want to do is get it in there, and we don't really care about damaging the tube right now, but we don't want to damage the tire, especially the sidewall. So you want to get it in there, and I'm going to try and do this all in one. And again, I apologize for the noise. And get it in there between the tire and the rim. And you don't want to jam it in because you want the widest part of that pry bar on that rim, because it causes the least amount of damage. And you're going to pull it up just like that. Now, don't go nuts and keep prying because it's not going to do you any good. You have the sidewall to contend with. So I just lost it. Okay. So at this point now, you're out of habit. You're going to want to walk that around. So what I would do is I would bring this over to this side of this stem and use that. I'm gonna try and hold it and do it at the same time. Use that because the tire is going to spin in there. So with your other hand, hold on to that, and it will keep that. And you can start to use this for mechanical advantage. It will start to spoon this out. You can also take like a grinder and kind of smooth that out. I hadn't done that, but it would certainly help. Okay, we're going to try this again. So I'm going to hold this like this and pry this around very slowly. See how that's starting to pull that rim up? Very slowly. You can walk it a little bit, but don't do it too much. You're going to scar your rim. You're going to pull this around. Now, once you got a pretty good grip like this on there, then what I would do, the next thing I would do is I would take a pencil pry that up, get that pencil in there or something else, something that's innate and not very sharp. I gotta go a little more. Open that up. There you go. Just like that. And I'm gonna get that pencil in there, or another screwdriver maybe. And I'm gonna kind of just relieve the pressure off of this, right, for right now. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna now take this and I'm gonna turn it around so I'm not gouging on the sharp end. And again, I'm gonna hold this rim and slowly just kind of walk it around. I'm gonna pull back a little bit. And you may find that it works, you have to go back and forth a few times. And once you get it kind of started, like I said, you'll have to go back and forth a little while. Use some different tools. I got some different screwdrivers and things. And you just don't want to break that bead. And you want to kind of like carefully pull that up. So keep working at that, and then we'll check back here in a minute. It's a pain. I'm not a tire guy. I'm not very good at this. Next thing is we're going to push this stem to this tube out. Now this whole tire is loose, and I would begin to pull it out like this. Now one of the things that I noticed when I pulled this tube out is it's like deteriorating. Now again, I'm not a tire guy, but you can see that's all off the tube. So I don't know what's up with whatever on this thing, but the failure I think was right here. I think that's where that failed. Was right again in this connection here that I absolutely despise. I'm gonna go ahead and air it up and just see, just for the heck of it, if that's where we can see air coming out. So I'm gonna give it a little bit. Yeah, and actually you can, oh, it didn't, it broke somewhere else. I feel you can actually feel it coming out somewhere. But it looks like it came out somewhere else. It's like I kind of feel it coming out of my arm. I'm curious to see. I don't really care. I'm not going to fix it, but you could, I guess, if you wanted to. You could fix your tube, but anyway, they're really paper thin. Spend the money, buy the decent tube. Mine looks like it's coming out right around in here from one of these seams. Yeah, right there. So spend the money on the decent tube, and you won't look back, because this job sucks. Okay, so now let's put in our new tube. I'm gonna blow out the grit that's already in there real quick. Maybe if I can find my air nozzle. Maybe not. Okay, anyway, can't win them all. So here's your new tube. Take your stem cap off. Make sure it has a Schrader core in there. Make sure it's got the valve core. That's another thing to buy. So with this stroller, it came with a little kit with a pump, and I think it came with a spare tube maybe, I don't remember, or a patch kit, whatever. But the problem is, if the hole's in this tube and you hear it hissing out, you're not gonna be able to patch your tire just to fix it. So it's one of those things. So now we're gonna take this, and we want this, I like these pointing inward, not outward, so they don't snag on stuff. So I like them to point in. So if I put it in like this, it's gonna point outward. So I wanna put it in like this so it points inward and doesn't run risk of getting damaged. So first thing I'm gonna do is start working it in, kind of get it close, and kind of with your finger, just kind of start putting it in there. And you will have to twist it around, just the way it goes. These are a pain. And it's gonna feel oversized, and they all do, and kind of get it in there. I guess, you know what, actually now that I'm thinking about it, good practice is to probably air it up right now to make sure this one don't leak. See, that's why I'm not a tire guy. So I'm gonna give this some juice. Just a little bit. Just like that. I don't hear any leaks. I don't see any. It looks pretty good. I don't hear nothing, don't feel anything. So it looks like it's gonna be good. And you can see now it makes a little more sense. It hasn't grown so big or whatever in size. So I'm gonna let the air out of it now. I'm gonna leave just a little teeny bit in. That'll actually will help you position your valve stem. So, man, it does look like I murdered that tire. Oh well, like I said, this stroller is, well, my twins are 5 years old now, so it's every bit of that, and boy, it got the use. If these things had odometers on them, I'd probably be really amazed as to how many miles this thing has on it, because my wife, we take these guys everywhere. So you're gonna manipulate, push the stem in, and you're gonna manipulate it out, and then once you have it kind of sitting out, it's gonna wanna pivot on you, like back and forth. Make sure it's kind of dead center, and you want it to lean out and kind of just give it a slight tug, and then you're gonna push these in, slowly make sure it's gonna go in there, so when you go to replace your tire, it doesn't wanna get goofy and jam up, and it'll kind of fall into place just like that. This one's a little bit. So now that you have that in there, again, just keep referencing your stem. You can tell when you're straight. And then now we're gonna begin to place this tire back. So to do that, before I do that, I'm gonna take some of this stuff here. This is like to check for gas leaks. It's pretty, you can use soapy water. I'm gonna put just a little bit on this, I guess, bead. And that will help it kind of slip in. I'm gonna put a little bit in the tire too. It doesn't cause any damage, what they say, to any of the rubber or the plastics, supposedly. So that's what I've used in the past. Again, it's worked pretty well. So now, again, just be mindful of your stem. I'm gonna go ahead and put this cap back on it, just so number one, I don't lose the cap, and it just doesn't run a risk of poking a hole if it does shoot back down in there. So now I'm going to begin to manipulate this. I'm gonna start on the valve side and kind of work my way around. I don't wanna start over here and work my way around, because by the time I get to here, it's gonna have a lot of pressure on it. I wanna run a risk of snagging any of that. So I'm gonna just push it in, and you can get it a good portion of the way, just like this, and don't be afraid to pull it down, because I'll help that kind of gather. And getting these things on is a lot easier up until like the last 3 inches. And again, go back to your tool, and you're gonna be doing the same thing. You're gonna kind of walk it in there, so get it in position between this and your bead, and just kind of walk it in and take your time. You don't want to murder your bead. And then another thing that would help you do that is if then you use your mechanical advantage again, and kind of very carefully put pressure on it going this way. I can't do it because I don't have another set of hands. Well, I do, but he's entertained right now by the farmer, so. And then I'm just gonna slowly work my way around. As I do it, I'm gonna pull down on this, and just, as long as you're hugging this rim, you should not be running a risk of damaging your tube. And I'm just gonna just a little prying, and then as you can see, you can get the last little bit. Now I'm gonna take a little final shot of this, and you can see, again, watch your valve stem, because this has got me in a jam before. Watch your valve stem. I'm gonna take another little shot of this. I'm gonna put it around this again. This stuff's cheap. It's good for a lot of things, actually, and it doesn't freeze. I don't know why I felt compelled to tell you that, but see, so you tell people stuff like that, you definitely stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. Okay, let me wipe all the sweat off my forehead, and then minding the position of this, I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna air it up, and if you don't have a big compressor, those are probably the last thing you want to use, but that's what I have here right now in my shop. So I'm going to give it a little shot, and I'm going to watch for bubbles. Just so you're going to want to support this as you give it air, because it's just going to push it back in, and it'll run a risk of pushing it through your tube. So I'm just going to give it a little. And you saw the little bubbles there, which actually kind of concerns me. And what it's doing, those bubbles, because they're uniform, is pushing everything out. And now I got good air pressure. I'm gonna give it one more little hit. Once I get on the stroller, I'll have a better idea. I'll check the air pressure, but that feels pretty good. So that's that tire situation in a nutshell. Clean this stuff off. It is really messy. And at this point, you should hear hissing because it is quite amplified. But you can see what happens when you don't do this right. You kind of murder, but again, it's on the inside. So then the outside of your deal, still pretty good shape. Still pretty good shape. So when you buy your tubes, buy 2 at a time. I don't know if it's necessary to buy a spare tire. These tires we've had for 5 years, and I haven't ever had to replace a tire. It's still in pretty good shape. We have paved roads with the driveway's gravel, but like I said, I I don't know how many miles around this thing, but it's a good solid stroller. You'll be happy you bought it. And I think you'll be satisfied. And that's it. So just kind of walk around it, and I put some air in it. Make sure your stem is good and straight as far as with access to that. If it's moved one way or another, this one is just a little bit, but it's okay. That is your Bumbleride tire replacement. Hopefully that helps some of you. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I did some editing on this, and it wasn't as quick and simple as it looked. It sucks. So it's just gonna take you some time. So be patient. Don't go cranking on stuff on your little vise. Don't do any of that. And hopefully this helps some of you. Good luck. Like and subscribe.